As I begin this video, I want to read to you a quote from a book written by a Muslim scholar by the name of Hassan Tibi. The book is entitled The Challenge of Fundamentalism. Now, Professor Tibi is a moderate pro-democracy Muslim, so he is not of the radical Osama bin Laden school, okay? But let me read you this brilliant quote from Professor Tibi. A congenital problem for Western writers not familiar with non-Western civilization is that they take for granted the universality of Western values and norms and the particular view of the world that these values and norms tend to construct. Thus, communism was thought to be the only obstacle to establishing secular democracy on a world scale. Only a few cultural anthropologists recognized that democracy, individual human rights, and secularity are products of Western civilization. The corollary of this West-centrism has been the inability of most Western writers to see that these products are alien to non-Western civilizations. This fact, it seems, did not come to the attention of those scholars and journalists preoccupied with communism, and for many of these observers it has been a shock to see that the breakdown of communism did not bring about a great era of peace and accord. Let me explain that to you as I go through this video. What Professor Tibi is saying is that, okay, those of us who grew up under the Cold War, I was born under the Cold War, and communism was the great enemy. It was the enemy. It was the only enemy. We fought communism, democracy versus totalitarianism, and when the Soviet Union collapsed and so many of the Soviet satellites broke away and were able to establish their own governments, we rejoiced in victory. We thought we had won. We thought that secular democracy now was, as one historian put it, the end of history. A very famous article written in the first part of the 1990s after the fall of the Soviet Union by an historian, and he entitled it, The End of History. Not that history, of course, has actually ended, but that secular democracy has proven to be victorious, that this is the way it's going to be, everybody's going to follow it, and that we won. And then all of a sudden we woke up in the 1990s and realized that there is another enemy out there. One that is just as determined to have its way as the Soviet Union was. Folks, the war in the Middle East, what Professor Tibi is saying and what we in America have never understood, or very few people have, the war in the Middle East is a civilizational war. It is a war between Western civilization and Islamic civilization. Osama bin Laden is fighting for what he believes in. And he does not believe in democracy. He does not want democracy. If you are a devout Muslim, look at it from his perspective. When you look at democracy, when you look at the West, what do you see? You see drugs. You see sex. You see alcohol. You see homosexuality. You see feminism and abortion in Hollywood. You see everything as a devout Muslim that you oppose, that you do not believe in. And now here comes the United States, here comes the West trying to ram it down your throat. What are you going to do? You're going to fight it too, aren't you? You're going to fight with everything you've got because they do not want democracy. Democracy to the fundamentalist Muslim, now not to those like Professor Tibi, but to the fundamentalist Muslim like Osama bin Laden, democracy is heresy. The idea of the people ruling is absolutely ridiculous to these people. God rules. They believe in a theocracy. They believe that the people are not capable of ruling, that God is the sovereign, Allah is the sovereign of the universe, and that He is supposed to rule, and so they fight what we're trying to bring over to them. We can't understand it. Why don't people want democracy? Why don't people want freedom? Why don't they want equality? Why don't they want all the blessings of American civilization? And they're fighting against it, and we cannot understand. We cannot understand because we do not understand their civilization. And they're going to fight as hard as they can in the only way they can. Osama bin Laden, it's a war to him, a war for his civilization. And he fights it the only way he can fight it. He doesn't have airplanes, he doesn't have tanks, he doesn't have aircraft carriers and missiles, so he fights the war through terrorism or guerrilla warfare. It's basically the same thing. But to him, folks, it is a war. I don't agree with what Osama bin Laden is doing, but I do understand why he's doing it. He's fighting for what he believes in. And he doesn't want what we've got, and he's going to fight it, and his people are going to fight it as long as they can. And we're going to lose that war in Afghanistan, folks, because these people are fighting for their civilization. They're not just fighting to fight. They are fighting for what they believe in, and they're going to fight to the last man. We ran into this before in American history with the American Indian. We did win that war. We did destroy a civilization that was completely different from ours. The American Indian did not understand us. We did not understand them. But there weren't as many of them, and we were able to kill a large number of them and, of course, destroy their lifestyle, the buffalo, and shove them off on reservations. But we're not going to be able to do that in Afghanistan. We're not going to be able to destroy their lifestyle. We're not going to be able to kill enough of them. There's always going to be more. And so we're going to lose that war in Afghanistan, because we're fighting against a people who are fighting for their civilization, and that's something that we in America have never understood. What we need to do in Afghanistan is find a goal that we can accomplish. I don't know what that is, but we need to find some goal that we can accomplish and get out before we end up like the Soviet Union in the late 1980s when they went into Afghanistan. And they had to leave with their tails tucked between their legs because they could not defeat that civilization either. We in America have done a very poor job of understanding other peoples and the way other peoples live. Because of that, it has led us to have many enemies around the world that tragically we should not have if we had handled matters differently and if we had tried to understand them. Maybe we can learn from history and learn that there are other ways of doing things. Our way is our way. It's not necessarily the right way. It's not necessarily the wrong way. It's our way, and other people do things the way they want to do them. And we need to understand that as best we can.